Picture this. You're an experienced kayaker. You run dozens of rivers. You know the risks. You respect the water, but what if the water doesn't just want your respect? What if it wants you? Summer 2017. The Gauley River in West Virginia, deep in the Appalachian Mountains. Emily and Jake Thompson, experienced paddlers, married 3 years, entered those dark waters together. Jake never made it out, but what dragged him down wasn't the current. It wasn't to rocks. It wasn't to drowning. It was something the river had been collecting for a very, very long time. July 2017. Emily, 28. Jake, 31. Married for 3 years, together for 8. Both experienced whitewater kayakers with dozens of rivers under their belts. The Ocoee, the Nantahala, the New River Gorge. This trip was supposed to be special. Their anniversary celebration. A week in the Appalachian wilderness. Just them and the river. They chose the Upper Gauley, a legendary section that runs through a deep canyon in the heart of West Virginia coal country. The maps rated it Class 3 IV, challenging but manageable for kayakers of their skill level. The put-in was remote, accessed by a winding dirt road that snaked through dense forest. Perfect isolation, perfect adventure. Monday morning, July 17th. They loaded 2 kayaks onto their SUV and started the 3-hour drive from their home in Asheville, North Carolina, into the mountains of West Virginia. Emily remembers the drive, how excited Jake was. He'd been stressed for months. His job at the engineering firm was killing him. 60-hour weeks, barely sleeping. This trip was supposed to reset everything, get them back to who they were when they first fell in love on a kayaking trip in Oregon. 7 days of nothing but river, trees, and you, Jake had said when planning the trip. No phones, no emails, no deadlines, just us. Emily had kissed him. Sounds perfect. The last gas station before the put-in was a weathered building that looked like it had been there since the 1950s. Faded paint, rusted signs, a single pump that probably hadn't been updated in decades. But it was the only stop for 40 miles, so Emily pulled in. Inside, the air was cool and smelled like old wood and motor oil. Shelves stocked with dusty cans and basic supplies. Behind the counter stood an elderly man, probably in his 70s, with weathered skin and sharp eyes that seemed to look right through her. Emily grabbed water bottles and energy bars, brought them to the counter. The man rang them up slowly, then looked out the window at their kayaks strapped to the SUV. What, all heading to the Gauley? His voice was rough, like gravel. Yes, sir, Emily smiled. Upper section, through the canyon. The man stopped moving. His jaw tightened. Don, just that one word. Flat. Final. Emily, the smile faded. Excuse me, Don, to go on that river. Not now. Not this week. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. Water has been strange lately. Too high, too fast. Every summer, someone goes missing on that stretch. Every single summer. Been happening long as I can remember. Emily felt a chill despite the warm day. We re-experienced kayakers. They check the water levels, the weather forecasts. I'll be careful. The old man shook his head slowly. It ain't about being careful. It ain't about experience. He paused, choosing his words carefully. That river, it is old. Older than these mountains, some say. And it's got a hunger to it. Spirits of all the folks who died in these hills. Miners, loggers, lost souls. They all end up in that water eventually. And when the river gets hungry enough, it takes someone new. Emily wanted to laugh it off as mountain superstition, but something in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't the crazy old man telling ghost stories. This was someone they'd seen something, who believed. My grandson, the man continued quietly, went down that river 5 years back. Strong swimmer, good kayaker, went with 3 friends. Only 2 came back, never found his body. I'm so sorry, Emily said, meaning it. The man bagged her purchases with shaking hands. If we're gonna go anyway, and I can see you are, then listen to me. If you hear voices in the water, singing quite singing, you get to shore. Immediately, Don, to listen, Don, to look, just get out. He pushed the bag across the counter. And if you see them, the river spirits, the drowned ones, Don, then let them touch you. Once they touch you, the river claims you. You read theirs. Emily paid, thanked him, and walked back to the car in silence. She sat in the driver, seat for a moment. The old man, his words echoing in her head. Jake knocked on the window, making her jump. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Emily forced a smile. Yeah, just... The guy in there was a bit strange. She didn't tell Jake about the warning. Didn't want to worry him. They'd come all this way. They were experienced. They'd be fine. She should have told him. 11:30 a.m. They carried the kayaks down a steep path to the river. The gully here was wide, the water a deep greenish brown, moving fast. The canyon walls rose on either side, covered in dense forest, oak, maple, rhododendron. Beautiful, isolated. They hadn't seen another person since leaving the gas station. Emily looked at the water and felt that chill again. Something about it seemed dark. Not just in color, but in feeling. Like the water was watching them. You sure about this? She asked Jake. He was checking his gear, adjusting his spray skirt. He looked up, surprised. Yeah, of course. Why? Emily looked at the river again. I don't, just a feeling. Jake walked over, pulled her close. Hey, we've done harder rivers than this. We got this. And besides, he kissed her forehead. I got you. You were the best paddler I know. If anyone can handle this river, it is you. Emily smiled despite her unease. You were just saying that because I saved your ass twice. 3 times, Jake corrected with a grin. Remember the yoke? They laughed. The tension broke. They were just 2 kayakers about to run a beautiful river. Emily looked back one more time before pushing off. She could swear she saw something in the tree line, a figure, watching. But when she blinked, it was gone. They launched at 11:47 a.m. Emily noted the time because Jake took a selfie of them both in their kayaks, paddles up, grinning. The canyon behind them, the river ahead. That photo would be the last one of them together. The first 2 hours were perfect. Everything Emily loved about kayaking. The rhythm of the paddle, the rush of moving water, the beauty of wilderness. Jake paddled behind her, occasionally calling out jokes, pointing out a hawk circling overhead, a deer on the bank. They stopped on a gravel bar around 1:15 p.m. Ate sandwiches. Jake put his arm around her. Thank you for this, he said quietly, for getting me out here, away from everything. I needed this so badly. Emily leaned into him. I know, I needed it too. Just us, he echoed and kissed her. Those were the last peaceful moments Around 2 p.m., the river changed. It was subtle at first. The current picked up speed. The watercolor shifted from greenish brown to something darker, almost black in places. The temperature dropped. Emily could feel it even through her wetsuit. And then came the sound. At first, Emily thought it was just the river, the normal, rushing, gurgling sounds of water moving over rocks. But as she listened closer, it sounded like voices, faint, distant, coming from beneath the surface. Not words exactly, but something between humming and singing. Multiple voices, layered, harmonizing in a way that was almost beautiful but fundamentally wrong. Emily stopped paddling. Jake, do you hear that? Hear what? He pulled up beside her. That sound. Like singing. Jake listened, shook his head. Just the river. Maybe echo off the canyon walls? But Emily knew what she was hearing. The old man. His words came rushing back. If you hear voices in the water, singing that ain't quite singing. Jake, I think we should. Whoa. Jake pointed ahead. Check out that rapid. That is going to be fun. Ahead, the river narrowed, funneling between massive boulders. White water churned and boiled. Class 4, maybe verging on V bigger than the maps had indicated. They should have portaged around it. Should have stopped, scouted, made a plan. But Jake was already paddling toward it, energized, excited. And Emily didn't want to seem scared. Didn't want to ruin his adventure. She followed. The first 2 hours were perfect. Everything Emily loved about kayaking. The rhythm of the paddle, the rush of moving water, the beauty of wilderness. Jake paddled behind her, occasionally calling out jokes, pointing out a hawk circling overhead, a deer on the bank. They stopped on a gravel bar around 1:15 p.m. Ate sandwiches. Jake put his arm around her. Thank you for this, he said quietly, for getting me out here, away from everything. I needed this so badly. Emily leaned into him. I know, I needed it too. Just us, he echoed and kissed her. Those were the last peaceful moments Around 2 p.m., The river changed. It was subtle at first. The current picked up speed. The watercolor shifted from greenish-brown to something darker, almost black in places. The temperature dropped. Emily could feel it even through her wetsuit. And then came the sound. At first, Emily thought it was just the river, the normal, rushing, gurgling sounds of water moving over rocks. But as she listened closer, it sounded like voices, faint, distant, coming from beneath the surface. Not words exactly, but something between humming and singing. Multiple voices, layered, harmonizing in a way that was almost beautiful but fundamentally wrong. Emily stopped paddling. "Jake, do you hear that?" "Hear what?" He pulled up beside her. "That sound. Like singing." Jake listened, shook his head. "Just the river. Maybe echo off the canyon walls?" But Emily knew what she was hearing. "The old man," as words came rushing back. "If you hear voices in the water, singing, that ain't quite singing." "Jake, I think we should." "Whoa." Jake pointed ahead. "Check out that rapid. This is gonna be fun." Ahead, the river narrowed, funneling between massive boulders. White water churned and boiled. Class 4, maybe verging on V, bigger than the maps had indicated. They should have portaged around it, should have stopped, scouted, made a plan. But Jake was already paddling toward it, energized, excited. And Emily didn't want to seem scared, didn't want to ruin his adventure. She followed. The rapid grabbed Emily's kayak like a hand and threw her into chaos. Water exploded around her, over her head, against her face, pulling her left and right. She braced, corrected, found the line through the chaos. Her paddle hit water, found purchase, pulled her through. She shot out the bottom of the rapid, gasping, exhilarated. Heart pounding. "Jake," she called back. "You good?" She looked back just in time to see his kayak flip. Not unusual. He flipped dozens of times. He knew how to roll back up. But this flip looked wrong, like something had grabbed the kayak from below and yanked it over. Jake rolled up, sputtering. "What the hell was that?" "You okay?" "Yeah, He stopped, stared at the water around him. Look at the water." Emily paddled back toward him and saw what he was seeing. The water around them had turned completely black. Not dark green, not brown, black, like ink, like the bottom had dropped out into infinite depth. And there were shapes moving beneath the surface. Large shapes, multiple shapes, circling. "Jake, get to shore." Now. They paddled hard for the bank. The shapes followed, staying just below the surface, pacing them. Emily could feel her heart hammering, every instinct screaming danger. They reached a small rocky outcrop and dragged the kayaks out. Both of them were breathing hard, not from exertion but from fear. Jake pointed at the water with a shaking hand. "What the hell was that?" Emily opened her mouth to answer, and the singing started. Louder now, clear, multiple voices rising from the river. Not words, but something older, stranger. A melody that pulled at something deep in Emily's chest. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. Jake stood up. His eyes went distant. "Jake?" He started walking toward the water. "Jake!" Emily grabbed his arm. He didn't respond. Just kept walking, like he was in a trance, pulled by invisible strings. Emily planted her feet and yanked him back hard. "Jake!" She slapped him across the face. He blinked, stared at her. What was I?" "You were walking into the water." Jake looked at the river, then back at her. His face had gone pale. We need to get off this river. Right now." "I know." "The problem?" They were in the bottom of a canyon. The walls rose 200 feet on either side, too steep to climb with kayaks. Going back upstream was impossible. The current was too strong. The only way was forward. According to their map, the next takeout point was 6 miles downstream. 6 miles through whatever that river had become. They had no choice. Emily checked her phone. No signal. Of course not. They were in a canyon in the middle of nowhere. They sat on the rocks for 20 minutes, trying to decide what to do. The singing had stopped, but the water remained black. The shapes were still down there, waiting. Finally, Jake spoke. "We go fast. We stay in the middle of the current. We don't." He stopped. "We get to the takeout and we get the hell out of here." Emily nodded. "Together. We stay together. Together." They pushed off at 4:43 p.m. For the first mile, nothing happened. Just fast water, normal rapids. Emily started to think maybe the worst was over. Maybe they just hit some weird geological feature. Maybe the shapes were just big fish or logs, or the hands came out of the water. Dozens of them, pale, thin, dripping, rising from the black water like plants growing in fast motion. Fingers grasping at air, reaching for the kayaks. "Em!" Jake screamed. "Go! Go!" Emily dug her paddle in, pulling hard. A hand grabbed her paddle blade. "Ice cold," she screamed and yanked it free. Another hand slapped against the side of her kayak, leaving a wet handprint that smoked in the air. The singing erupted again, deafening now, coming from everywhere. Not just voices, but thousands of voices, overlapping, harmonizing in alien patterns. The sound of drowning, the sound of despair, the sound of everyone who ever died in these mountains, all crying out at once. Jake, his kayak was just ahead of her, weaving between the grasping hands. Emily saw one grab his paddle, saw him struggle to pull free. "Jake, stay ahead of..." Something massive rose beneath Jake, his kayak. Not a hand this time. Something huge, dark, shapeless. Like the water itself was reaching up. It lifted Jake, his kayak, held it suspended for one impossible moment, then threw it. Jake flipped, went under, came up gasping, but his kayak was gone, pulled under by the current. "Em, I can." Something grabbed his legs and pulled. Jake went under again. Emily dropped her paddle and dove off her kayak into the black water. The water was freezing, pitch black. Emily couldn't see anything, but she could feel them. All around her. Bodies, spirits, she didn't, they brushed against her legs, her arms. Hands grabbed at her wetsuit, her life jacket, pulling her down. She kicked hard, pushed through them. Her lungs burned. She needed air, but she needed to find Jake more. Her hand hit something solid. A body. "Jake!" She grabbed him, pulled, but he wasn't moving. Something had him. She could feel it, like the water itself had solidified around him, holding him, claiming him. Emily pulled harder, kicked at whatever had him. Her foot connected with something that felt like flesh but moved like water. It released for just a second. She hauled Jake up with every ounce of strength she had. They broke the surface together. Jake gasped, coughing up water. "Em, I got you. Just hold on." Emily, his kayak was 20 feet away, somehow still upright. She swam for it one-handed, dragging Jake with her other arm. He was barely conscious, barely kicking. The things in the water were swarming now. Emily could see them clearly. Not quite human, not quite anything. Pale figures with no faces, just dark holes where faces should be. Formed from the river itself. The drowned ones, the collected dead of 100 years. One rose right in front of her. It opened its mouth, a black void, and the singing poured out. So loud Emily's ears rang. So terrible she felt her mind starting to fracture. The thing reached for Jake. "No!" Emily screamed. She grabbed her paddle, still floating nearby, and swung it with everything she had. The paddle passed through the figure like smoke, but the figure recoiled, pulled back. Afraid? Hurt? Emily didn't care. She reached her kayak, got Jake to grab onto the back. Started paddling one-armed, the other holding Jake, pulling them both forward. The current was helping now, pushing them downstream fast. The pale figures followed, but couldn't quite catch up. Emily paddled until her arms went numb. Jake clung to the kayak, too weak to help, coughing up river water, shaking. "Stay with me," Emily kept saying. "Stay with me, baby. Just a little further." The takeout appeared ahead. A gravel beach, sunshine, normal watercolor, like crossing from nightmare into day. Emily paddled harder, almost there, almost safe. Jake, his grip loosened. "Jake, Jake, hold on!" His hand slipped off the kayak. Emily grabbed for him, but he was already sinking. His eyes were open, looking at her, but they were empty. Like whatever made him, Jake was already gone. "Jake!" Emily dove again. This time, they were ready for her. The pale figures swarmed. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They filled the water like a cloud of smoke. All reaching, all singing that terrible song. Emily fought through them, kicked, screamed underwater. Found Jake, but he wasn't fighting. He was just sinking. Limp. Gone. Emily grabbed him anyway. Tried to pull him up. But the river spirits had him now. Really had him. They wrapped around him like fog, like water, like death itself. One of them, taller than the others, darker, rose directly in front of Emily's face. It didn't have eyes, but she felt it looking at her. It reached past her and touched Jake, his forehead. Jake, his body went completely still. The tall figure looked back at Emily and pushed her hard. Emily shot up through the water, broke the surface near the shore. Gasped, tried to dive again, but her body wouldn't to respond. She was too cold, too exhausted, too broken. She floated there, treading water, screaming Jake, his name, until her voice gave out. He never came back up. Emily doesn't remember crawling onto the gravel beach. Doesn't remember the hikers who found her 3 hours later, hypothermic and barely conscious. Doesn't remember the ambulance, the hospital, the first 2 days of sedation. What she remembers is the moment she saw Jake, his eyes go empty. That moment plays on repeat in her nightmares. The search lasted 9 days. Divers, search dogs, helicopters. They found Jake, his body 7 miles downstream, tangled in a logjam. The medical examiner ruled it drowning. Said the cold water probably caused cardiac arrest. Quick, painless. Emily didn't correct them. Didn't tell them about the hands, the singing, the pale figures. Who would believe her? Jake, his parents flew in from Seattle. His mother sobbed and asked Emily what happened. Why couldn't you save him? What went wrong? Emily had no answer. Just, I tried. I tried so hard. The funeral was 4 days later. Emily stood by the casket and whispered, I'm sorry I couldn't hold on to you. Emily hasn't been near water since. Can shower without having panic attacks. Uses baby wipes and dry shampoo. Her therapist says it is PTSD. Survivor. Guilt. Complicated grief. Emily knows it is more than that. She is haunted, not by Jake, its ghost, but by the memory of those things in the water. The drowned ones. The river spirits. She quit kayaking, sold all their gear, moved away from Asheville. Too many rivers there. Lives in a dry Arizona town now where water is scarce and precious and definitely not deep enough for anything to hide in. But even in the desert, she hears the singing sometimes. In her dreams. In the wind. In the distant sound of traffic that sounds too much like running water. 6 months after Jake's death, Emily was going through his phone. Their shared photo account, looking at pictures from happier times. She found the selfie from that day. Both of them smiling in their kayaks at the put-in, the canyon behind them. Emily zoomed in on the water in the background. Her blood went cold. There, in the river behind them, barely visible, a figure, pale, humanoid, standing in the deep water. Looking at Jake, Emily zoomed in more. The figure was reaching toward Jake, his kayak. Had been reaching even before they launched. She scrolled through more photos from that day. Every single photo with water in frame had them. The pale figures, in the background, in the shadows, in the depths, always watching Jake. The river had chosen him before they ever put in. Before they even arrived. Maybe the moment they decided to come. Some things, Emily realized. You can to escape. Can to paddle. Can to fight. The river takes what the river wants. It took Emily a year to work up the courage to return to West Virginia. To that gas station. She needed to know. The drive was agonizing. Every mile closer to those mountains, Emily's anxiety spiked. But she had to know. Had to thank the old man for trying to warn them. Had to apologize for not listening. The station looked exactly the same. Faded. Old. Forgotten. Emily pulled in, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. The door was locked. A closed sign hung in the window, but it looked old. Very old. Emily peered through the dusty window. Empty. Shelves bare. Thick dust on everything. Help you, miss? Emily spun. An elderly woman stood by a pickup truck, watching her with curious eyes. I was looking for the owner, the man who runs this station. The woman, his face softened with sadness. Oh, honey, Earl died. Must be 7 years now? Heart attack. His family closed the station. Couldn't bear to run it without him. Emily felt the ground tilt. It's not possible. I was here. July 2017. He was here. He warned us about 2017? The woman shook her head. No, dear. Earl died in 2010. Station has been empty since. I should know. I'm his sister. I'm the one who found him. But Emily, his voice broke. He talked to me. He told us not to go on the river. He told us about his grandson. The woman, his eyes widened. His grandson? You mean Marcus? He said. He said Marcus went kayaking and never came back. The woman, his hand went to her mouth. Marcus drowned in 2012. On the Gauley. He and 3 friends. Only 2 came back. She paused, but Earl died 2 years before that. He never knew what happened to Marcus. We never got to tell him. Emily, his legs gave out. She sat down hard on the pavement. "Are you okay, honey?" "Who warned us?" Emily whispered. "If Earl was dead." "Who was in that station?" The woman helped her up, guided her to sit on the tailgate of the truck. "My brother," she said quietly, "loved this land, loved these mountains, and he hated that river. Said it was cursed. Said it took too many people. He always tried to warn folks away from it." She looked at the empty station. Maybe he's still trying. Emily walked around to the side of the building. There, on the weathered wall behind some overgrown bushes, she found it. A small memorial. Faded photos behind cracked plastic frames. Names carved into the wood. Dates going back decades. "The Gauley Lost," read the heading. Dozens of names. Dozens of photos. Emily found Marcus, a young man, maybe 25, smiling in a kayak. Date of death, August 2012. And there, near the top, Sarah Johnson. The photo showed a young woman with long dark hair, standing by a river, holding a paddle. Date of death, July 1997. Emily, his hands shook as she took a photo of the memorial with her phone. She walked back to her car. The old woman was still there. "Thank you," Emily said. "Did you lose someone on that river too?" Emily, his throat tightened. "My husband, Jake, last July." The woman squeezed her hand. "I'm so sorry, honey. That river," she shook her head. "It's been taking people since before I was born. Cherokee used to say it was haunted. Said the river collected the dead. All the mining accidents, the logging deaths, the lost souls in these mountains. They all end up in that water eventually. Why doesn't someone do something? What can you do against a river? Against that much death?" The woman looked toward the mountains. "That river is older than any of us, deeper than any of us know. And it's got a memory, a hunger." She met Emily's eyes. "Best we can do is warn people. Try to keep others away. Sometimes it works." "Not always," Emily said quietly. "No, not always." Emily drove home that day. Back to Arizona. Back to the desert. Back to dry land. That night, she placed 2 photos on her nightstand. Jake smiling in his kayak, and Sarah from 1997, smiling by the river. "I hope you found each other down there," Emily whispered to the photos. "I hope you're not alone. I hope the river is kinder to you now than it was then." She lay down in bed, closed her eyes, and heard it, faint, so faint. The singing, not scary this time, not threatening, just sad, mournful. The sound of everyone the river had ever taken, all singing together in the darkness. Singing their stories, their losses, their endings. Emily didn't fight it, didn't run, just listened and cried. Because she understood now, the river doesn't drown you out of malice. It drowns you because it's lonely, because it has been collecting the dead for centuries and it doesn't know how to stop. The singing faded as Emily drifted to sleep. In her dreams, she is back on the Gauley, but this time Jake is waiting on the shore, smiling, whole,